Drink 8-ounce glasses of water, they say. Then that's just a myth, they say. For the love of Karl Popper's ghost, can we please get some evidence up in here? Wait, what? There's a systematic review in JAMA Network Open on exactly this topic? Well, that's kind of perfect. Let's talk about it. I'm hardly the first person to wonder where the heck the 8 glasses of water a day thing came from. In this 2002 review from the American Journal of Physiology, physiologist Heinz Walton, as the incredibly sassy title indicates, was just as bewildered as I am now. He tracked down the most likely origin of the so-called 8x8 recommendation to a 1974 book by nutritionists Frederick Stair and Margaret McWilliams. In that book, Stair and McWilliams were just talking about getting 6 to 8 glasses worth of fluid a day. Coffee counts, beer counts, tea, soft drinks, even the water in fruits and vegetables counted as far as Stair and McWilliams were concerned. But here's the thing. That was an informal recommendation from expert nutritionists, not evidence-backed guidelines. Their statement wasn't based on a scientific study, at least as far as Walton could discover, though there were some similarly unsubstantiated recommendations in the 1940s. A lot of medical advice does come from evidence-based, what's called clinical practice guidelines. Those guidelines are painstakingly developed by groups of experts in the field with extensive scientific research behind all of those recommendations, because clinical practice guidelines are all about this is how we should all be doing this kind of medicine. And if doctors are going to advise other doctors on how to be doctoring, that has to be based on more than individual experiences with patients, and that's just my opinion, man. Clinical practice guidelines are things like diagnosis and management of asthma and recommendations on immunization, and they are accordingly held to a high standard. But drinking 8 glasses of water a day was never a clinical practice guideline. This really was just their opinion, man. But in nutrition, informal advice will get halfway around the world before evidence has the chance to put its pants on. We all eat, we all have folk wisdom about what we should and shouldn't be eating and drinking, and frankly, nutrition is incredibly physiologically complex, which is why scientific studies often seem to go back and forth as they capture different angles of nutritional questions. So, people pounced on the 6 to 8 glasses of water a day thing. It was intuitive. I mean, yeah, we definitely have to drink some amount of water to survive. And it was structured, giving us a nice rule for how much water we have to drink. And from there, the recommendation became like a game of telephone. It wasn't 6 to 8 glasses worth of fluids, it was specifically 8. Then the water in your food and other beverages didn't count anymore. You had to have 8 glasses on top of those other sources of hydration. Fad diets of the late 20th century, like the Proto-Atkins, Proto-Keto, Stillman diet, promoted and popularized this caricature of hydration recommendation. And by some accounts, Frederick Stair, originator of that recommendation, was pissed because there was no rigorous scientific evidence, and he was a scientist. There was certainly not enough there to support the kind of blithe confidence with which we presented our certainty. And by the 2000s, you start seeing the pushback. This is when Walton writes that sassy review, for instance. Nephrologists, kidney doctors, get in on the action as well. They're pointing out that yes, you need water. Yes, if you live in a hot place or you're exercising or you have some specific medical conditions, you're gonna need more of it. But just because deficiency is bad for you doesn't mean extra is better. Sure, your skin might look a little rough when you're dehydrated, but that doesn't mean drinking tons of water is going to make your skin look super awesome. It's just that enough is, well, enough. So over the years, all those scientists' review articles have also made it into the public consciousness, and there's greater awareness that the 8 glasses a day thing was not supported by evidence. Doesn't mean it isn't correct, but that we don't know one way or the other. And yet, the great thing about science is that just because there isn't evidence today, doesn't mean there can't be evidence tomorrow. And frankly, when scientists are annoyed, they do experiments about it to get it out of their system. And that's what today's article is all about. As a systematic review, it's a roundup of a handful of studies, each of which had a control group that just went about their normal business and an experimental group that altered their water intake. But there is one thing I do want to highlight about this roundup of a handful of studies. It really did end up being a handful. You'll often see a flow diagram in systematic reviews like these because they're showing their work of, here's how I searched, here's how I decided what to include or not, here's what got thrown out. And while it's kind of funny that 99% of the search results are thrown out for ultimately being irrelevant to this specific question, after all, not all database searches for water intake studies are randomized clinical trials about drinking water, when all's said and done, only 18 studies ended up fitting the criteria. That means each health outcome included in this review only had 2 to 4 studies per topic. 2 studies to see whether drinking more water helps headaches, 2 about urinary tract infections, 2 for kidney stones, and so on. So in this review, it wasn't at all uncommon to see results where one study did find that increasing water intake had significant effects while the other didn't, like with drinking more water to prevent headaches or lowering fasting blood glucose, where you'd have one study that found that drinking an extra liter of pre-meal water per day positively affected fasting blood glucose in people with diabetes, but the other study didn't confirm the effect. On the other hand, things like kidney stones consistently decreased risk when participants drank more water. Drinking water before meals also had a significant effect on weight loss in overweight adults in 3 out of 4 studies, and the one study that did look at healthy individuals' blood pressure found that drinking more water did have an effect. Also notable, only a couple of these studies actually focused on the whole drinking 8-ounce glasses of water a day, because we still have not done a lot of studies with that particular protocol. This review presented a really mixed picture. It wasn't like increasing water intake was some kind of cheat code to better health. But for modest health effects, like the kind you could expect from drinking more water, you're not going to get the full picture from, say, 2 studies of headaches. Throughout this review, the authors consistently call for more studies on each of these specific topics. And yeah, if we've only got a handful of studies into whether drinking more water helps for any of a half dozen outcomes, it seems like we've got plenty of science left to do for each of these topics. But okay, we got into all of this because we just wanted to know how much water we were supposed to drink. 8 glasses of water a day was so specific, so comforting. It's the kind of thing you could put into an app on your phone and track, or have a nice big bottle that you fill up a couple times a day and you have to get to the bottom of it. It's good, one-size-fits-all advice for everybody. But it isn't one-size-fits-all. We don't all live in the same climate or have the same activity level. We're all different sizes with different health needs, and frankly, the most surprising result I could imagine would be if everybody did, despite all those differences, all need the same amount of water every day. Maybe we'll see that someday. If we actually get some studies about it, that would be wild. But in the meantime, we don't have big, formal, evidence-based clinical guidelines about the exact amount of water to drink every day. And for now, we'll simply have to live with informal advice, like Dr. Stairs. Drink plenty of fluids. Eat fruit and vegetables. All that good stuff. Drink up, me hearties, yo ho.